Hi and welcome to the channel. So if you've seen some of my other videos, you'll know that I'm really interested in workflow and products with design that really impact your day-to-day workflow. The Tesla Model 3 is no exception to that. It's one of the most exciting products I've bought that transforms so many day-to-day workflows, and we're going to take a look at those in this video. So the first impact to your day-to-day workflow happens before you get anywhere near the car. So I've designed what I consider to be a very functional pocket carry, everyday carry system for wallets and tools and things that I keep in my pockets. And one of the major pains with that design is having to carry the car key fob around the whole time, because once it's in the pocket, it doesn't need to come out because it was keyless entry in our last car. So it would just stay in my pocket, taking up space and kind of floating about. And I'd always worry it would slip out, or if I picked the kids up, they'd bash it and unlock the car and all this kind of stuff. With the Tesla, the phone is the key. You don't have to get it out or do anything with it. Just being in your pocket is enough. You can approach the car, get in, and when you walk away from the car, it automatically locks. So you don't even have to sort of touch the door handle or anything like that. So it's great if you're leaving the car with shopping bags. It will lock itself as you walk away. So obviously it'd be pretty stupid to rely on a phone as the only way to get in and out of the car. So they give you these cards as well, which are obviously just close range wireless thingies. There's no battery or anything in there, that can just stay in your wallet the whole time. And if you ever need to access the car without your phone, you can just touch that to the side of the car and it'll let you in. Really great to get that space back in my pockets. So we're having a pretty chilly spell at the moment in winter, and the cars are all iced up in the morning. And this is another one of these really amazing benefits of having the Tesla, is that we can get the app out 5 minutes before we set off. We don't even have to go outside and set it to preheat the interior, and that clears all the glass as well. So by the time we get into the car, it's already nice and warm and the glass is clear, and we just drive off. And, going past all the other cars, you see just how much ice there was actually still on those, and we haven't had to get it off. So actually with our petrol car, our last car, the Subaru, I didn't want to scrape the glass with a scraper for fear of scratching it, and I don't like using those spray things in case they take all the paint sealant off. So I actually ended up going and taking a fan heater on an extension lead, putting that inside the car, wedging it between the front seats, and just letting that sit there for 10 minutes, which did a really good job of clearing the car, obviously without needing the engine running. It was just running off the mains in the house. So that's actually a pretty good workflow. If you haven't got an EV yet, you can clear the ice off a petrol car with a fan heater if you've got an extension lead that will reach. But this is obviously another level. We don't even have to go outside. So also when you get into the Tesla, the other kind of really significant workflow improvement they offer is the fact that you've got wireless chargers built in really nicely as part of the interior, so you can just chuck your phone on the pad, and there's 2 slots as well, so both people in the front can put their phones on the wireless charger. And the great thing about this is that because it's just sort of down there at the bottom of the dashboard, and it's not inside a glove box or behind any barrier, the microphone on the phone still picks you up, so you can still trigger Siri by saying the phrase, which I won't say. What's the weather today?
It's currently cloudy and 12 degrees.
And then if it's connected to Bluetooth, which it is, obviously I do have the phone connected to Bluetooth in the car, once Siri is triggered from its own microphone, it then starts connecting as if it's a phone call. So it uses the car's microphone and speakers, and you can interact with Siri and ask it to play whatever music you want, and of course it then just plays through the car via Bluetooth. So I had CarPlay in the last car, and obviously you still got to plug the thing in every time, and that's a bit of a faff. So shorter journeys I perhaps wouldn't bother doing that, and then I've got the old system on the screen instead of CarPlay, so kind of annoying. With the Tesla, there's none of that. I just pop it on the wireless charger, and I know what I've got is the same every time, with zero kind of friction to setting that process up. Another one of these underrated or maybe underexplored benefits of having an EV is that you don't have to go to a petrol station. I think the reason it's overlooked is because people think, oh, well, you've got to charge it instead, and that takes longer than filling up with petrol, so it's not really a benefit. But actually the reality, of course, is if you can charge at home, it's a slightly different discussion if you can't charge at home. But we can charge at home here, so obviously for us, whenever we drive the car, it's got enough range for the drive that we're setting out to do, which means we don't ever have to worry about detouring to fill up with petrol. So while we're on the topic of sort of getting in the car and driving, another benefit in the winter is because we're not using waste heat from an engine to heat us up, we haven't got to wait for the engine to get to operating temperature before we actually get cabin heat. And that's a really enjoyable process in the winter. Not only is the car already warm from the preheating, but when you get in, it obviously stays warm, and you can just drive it, and you've got full cabin heat from the word go. If you've got a modern diesel without an electric heater, you'll realize it takes about 15 minutes for those diesel engines to actually warm up to the point where they give you cabin heat. So in terms of getting in the car, this is another point where the Tesla really offers some amazing solutions. So my wife and I share our car, and she's a good bit shorter than me, which means her seating position is very different to mine. In fact, in our last car, she pretty much had it right at the top and I had it right at the bottom, which meant every time we switched over, I'd have to pump the handle on the side of the seat for ages. It seemed like ages before it would creep up and go down in my case, and she'd do the opposite. And of course, she'd leave it fully up, so I could sort of barely get into the car when I drove it after she'd been driving it. All of those things are just out the way in the Tesla, because not only does it actually remember our seating positions, but when she gets out of the car, the seat goes back into its sort of easy entry, they call it, position, and I can get in without any bother. And it knows it's me because of my phone and sets everything up for me just as soon as I put my foot on the brake, and it's ready for me to drive. So yeah, huge kind of hassle that we were living with our old car, just taken out of the way with this amazing technology in the Tesla. So this is an interesting one, and I don't know if I was really aware of it before I bought the car or not, but basically with the Tesla, because you don't need to use the brakes, basically you just never use brakes. All the slowing down you do when you're driving comes from regen, which means you're not using the brake pads, and that means the wheels don't get dirty. So when it comes to cleaning the car, you never have to spend the sort of 10 minutes per wheel cleaning the filthy brake dust off, the baked on brake dust off the wheels. They just need a little wipe down like the rest of the car. So brilliant little benefit of having an EV there in terms of cleaning the thing. It's actually got quite a few benefits in terms of cleaning. Another one is that there's no vents on the dashboard. Normally you get those vents with all the fins and they get covered in dust and you have to try and work out how to clean those. Well, the Tesla interior is just so clean and minimal that you don't have that problem at all. So that's another nice benefit. So we've had four-wheel drive cars. The last couple of cars we've had have been Subarus, and of course they've got the transmission tunnel in the back. Now the Tesla's the first four-wheel drive car that we've had that doesn't have the transmission tunnel, so that's really exciting to see that. You've got this completely flat floor space in the back, and that makes it so easy to clean with the Dyson. I just put the mini motor head on the Dyson. Also, quite interestingly, with the Tesla, the carpets seem much easier to vacuum than they did in the Subaru. I don't know what kind of different carpet they're using, but it's obviously nothing to do with being an EV, but the materials they've used on the interior seem to be great. They're all very easy to keep clean. So another really cool benefit of this sort of high-tech approach to the car design that Tesla use here is that you can control it from your Apple Watch. There's a couple of significant workflows to be had here. One is in the morning when you go out to unlock the charge port, you can just whack the button on the watch as you're going out the door and the charge port's open by the time you get there. Another one is when you're coming out of a supermarket and you want to open the boot, you can do that on your watch once you've got sort of sight of the car as you're walking across the car park, and the boot will open. So obviously some cars have the foot detector thing, but the only time I've ever seen people use those in car parks, they're wagging their foot like there's no tomorrow, it's not working, and then they put all the bags down, they try it again, and then it suddenly works. It's like, I'm yet to see that work reliably enough to be convinced by it as a technology. But at least with the watch, even with two bags, two shopping bags in your hands, you can still tap that button on your watch. It's much easier than you can get a phone out to do that, for example, and the boot's open by the time you get to the car. So brilliant kind of side effect of using this technology, and the fact that Tesla have exposed all these connections to third-party developers via the API and all of this. So very exciting and great fun to use that stuff. So this is one of those things that you don't really appreciate until you start actually using it. So with no engine at the front of the car, we've got all this extra storage space. They call it the Frunk. And this is really super useful for just chucking your muddy welly boots in after you've been for a walk. And normally when you come back from a walk, the kids have got muddy boots. You don't want them going in the car with those boots, and you don't really want to just put them in the boot of the car in case it gets everything else in there dirty, like your coats or whatever. So being able to just put these muddy boots in the Frunk, it's a sort of plastic lined space. It's very easy just to sort of clean out. It's no trouble at all to chuck the muddy boots in there. So that's really great at the end of a walk to be able to do that. I've got this sort of interesting way of getting the boots off the kids and putting them straight in the car, where I clamp their feet in between my feet, lift them up, put them in the back seat, and then I take their boots around to the front. So a really nice way of embracing the muddy outdoors in a way that doesn't end up getting the inside of the car completely filthy. So in terms of shopping bags and things like that, the fact that you don't have to touch the car when you lock it is also a real benefit. So if you grab your bags out of the boot, for example, it's quite easy just to get the button on the boot to set it to close while you've got your bags in your hands, and then you can just walk away. It's much easier to do that than I found on the last car, which you had to close the boot, obviously by hand, and then push the button. And of course the bags would smack against the back of the car when you were doing that. It just didn't work as well as it does in the Tesla, where you just push the button and walk away. So one of the most exciting parts of this car for me is that it doesn't need servicing. So obviously that's kind of a big hassle once a year. You've got to go and get it serviced, pay loads of money, and it's quite a disruptive process. You've got to sit in a waiting room or whatever for a morning while they drain all the oils out of it and replace all these various bits. It's great knowing that there's just none of that needs doing to the Tesla, apart from the brake calipers. I know that's a thing that does need to happen, especially if you're in an area with road salt like we are in England. But I could do that myself, actually. I could just do that with the kids, and we can get the tools out, take the wheels off. I don't mind doing something like brakes. I can get my head around that. And of course, it's not a big job for somebody to do professionally if it wasn't your bag. But yeah, and that's it. You don't have to do that. And the nice thing about Tesla is they're committed to that idea. They're not sort of selling you a service plan. Other EV manufacturers still say you've got to do the service thing for the warranty. It's like, well, Tesla are putting their money where their mouth is here and saying you don't have to do that. And I really like that. So another fun side effect of having the system where it can store all the driving positions for the seat and the mirrors and the steering wheel is that when I'm working in the car, just waiting, I can just tap the office mode that I've saved as a driver profile. The seat goes right back, the steering wheel goes in and up, and I've got the biggest sort of space I can have for when I'm working on the iPad in the front of the car there, and the climate control settings are all saved into that as well. So it's exactly how I'd like to have it when I'm working in the car. And of course, if I've got the kids in the back, if I'm just waiting to pick up my wife or something like that, then they can be watching Netflix on the big screen in the front, and I can be working with the iPad. The iPad just sits below that screen, which actually all works very well. I can sit and work in there. The glass doesn't steam up because obviously the climate control's on. It's just fantastic use of this technology that you can be using the power without any fumes coming out. So that's obviously the main thing. Obviously you could just leave your engine running and have those kinds of benefits in a normal car, but it's pretty unpleasant for people who are walking down the pavement if you're parked up. So all these inherent benefits of it being an EV kind of really change the way you think about the car. You don't think of it as just a thing to get you from A to B. It can be a place where you do some work in comfort. It can be this amazing machine that propels you at incredible speed when you want it to, but it's basically a big family car when you needed to do that too. So and of course it's equally happy just doing a small run to the shops as it is as a long journey. And that's actually an interesting benefit of an EV is that these short journeys, I know they're slightly less efficient because you've got to heat up the cold car and all of that, but actually it's there's no kind of inherent problem, whereas a short journey in a car, a petrol or a diesel car, is a bit of a problem. With diesel cars, you've got that DPF particulate filter problem with short journeys. Petrol cars, you've got the problem of moisture in the exhaust building up over short journeys. Both petrol and diesel cars benefit from good long journeys every now and again. And of course, in lockdown like we are now, it's mostly little short journeys, and I know that that's just fine for the EV. It's not bothered by that at all. I'm not worried about moisture building up in the exhaust or anything like that. So again, incredible benefit of the technology in making something useful in many more ways than the technology that came before it. So if you've got any questions about the Tesla or EVs, obviously I've come to this after a lot of research, and I've kind of built up a pretty good picture of how this kind of system works now, and hopefully I can answer any questions you might have about EVs or Teslas in the comments below, so we can carry on the discussion down there. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't already, and share this video too. It all helps the channel. So this channel is all about how products and product design can impact our workflow and usability in all areas of our life on a day-to-day basis, and there's lots of exciting stuff to look forward to. So it'd be great to have you along for the journey, and I'll see you in the next video.